And this is the good doctor, and you guys know that the good doctor is right at the top of the list. I mean, he is probably the number one guy at the top of the list that I like reviewing as far as having conversations about what it is that he thinks is going on in the black community, and more specifically as it relates to begging for cash apps and reparations. So we're going to play this video because it ties in perfectly with the theme of the show, and then more importantly, I want to mine out one more conversation or one more thing for us to have a conversation about prior to us dropping a link in the chat. Make sure you hit a like for the YouTube algorithm, subscribe to the channel. My good friend or not, Dr. Umar Johnson, who I invited for an in-person conversation and was willing to pay him for it and put him up in the best hotels and fly in first class and whoever it is that he brought with him, but declined my offer to do so. This is your boy, Dr. Umar Johnson, giving his thoughts on who he identifies as the Mount Rushmore of coonery within the black community.
You said if we had a Mount Rushmore of coons, who would be on it? If we had a Mount Rushmore of Negropeans, if we had a Mount Rushmore of Negropeans, Clarence, Thomas, Charles Barkley, Candace, Owens, and Jesse Lee Peterson.
He didn't even think. He didn't even think for 5 seconds before he ran that list off, ladies and gentlemen.
Get my vote for the Mount Rushmore of coons. For right now. This is not.
He didn't even blink when he came up with that list. He said Charles Barkley, Clarence Thomas, Candace Owens, and Jesse Lee Peterson.
Historical. This is contemporary.
That was a really quick runoff. That means that he's feeling some type of way about them people already.
Right now, if I had to vote for 4 Negroes who represent the worst of the race when it comes to siding with the enemy on a Mount Rushmore for coons, it would be Candace Owens, Charles Barkley, Jesse Lee Peterson, and Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas.
What do y'all think about that list? Is this bitter? Is this aligning with your thoughts or with what you would think, something that Dr. Umar Johnson would say? Let's continue into the video. I love this type of conversation.
They get my vote. They get my vote. They get my vote. They get my vote. I want to talk about Jonathan Majors is the new Bill Cosby. I want to go to Jonathan Majors as the new Bill Cosby. And I want to talk about this news article that said a poll was taken amongst non-Africans in America, non-blacks, and they asked Asians, they asked anti-African Latinos, they asked Arabs, they asked Chinese and Mexicans and Jews and Anglo-Saxons, do they believe black people deserve reparations? They asked Americans, do black people deserve reparations? And I want to talk about what all these non-white, anti-black people of color had to say about you, because some of y'all still stuck on multiculturalism. Some of y'all still stuck on multiculturalism. So let me tell you what America feels about reparations. Oh yes, let me tell you what America has to say about reparations.
The one thing that I'm always trying to understand when Umar Johnson is having these conversations is how come he just don't tell us? Like, why does he say it 3 times? It's literally a 3-time thing that he's always saying before he actually says what he says that he's going to say. Tell us. Just tell us what it is that they said.
Reparations. And then we're going to talk about Jonathan Majors. Y'all ready for this? Are y'all ready for this?
Yes.
March 27th, 2023. National Public Radio. Cities may be debating reparation, but here's why most Americans oppose the idea. In about a dozen cities in the state of California have renewed hopes for an eventual national policy to compensate for slavery. But after decades of lobbying and 3 years of a national reckoning over race, Americans overall remain strongly opposed to the idea.
Including me. I'm opposed to the idea of reparations also, but that's a whole nother conversation.
When Tatishe Natita began polling about it several years ago, he expected money would be the biggest issue. or perhaps the workability of such a complex undertaking. It turns out those are the smallest concerns among the 2/3 of Americans who say they are against cash payments to the descendants of slaves. 2/3 of Americans say they are against cash payments to the descendants of slaves. 2/3 of Americans say they are against cash payments for the descendants of slaves. Americans don't believe descendants of slaves deserve reparations. The political science professor at the University of Massachusetts plans more research to get exactly why people think that. The most common reason opponents cite is it's impossible to place a monetary value on the impact of slavery. It's impossible to place a monetary value on the impact of slavery. So what you're saying is Africans in America should get nothing? So since you can't put a monetary value on slavery, don't give us anything. Interesting. Natita and also the Pew Research Center found about 3/4 or more of white adults oppose reparations. The majority of Latinos oppose reparations. The majority of Asian Americans oppose reparations. Wow.
And I would guess that the only reason that maybe the majority of black people don't oppose reparations is because they feel like they'd be getting something out of it. But if they knew what the real impact of it financially was, uh, the thing about Umar Johnson, in my personal opinion, is that I don't think that he understands how to look at things from a business perspective, um, which is one of the reasons why it's so difficult for him to be able to get his school open and why it's taking so long to do so. He doesn't understand money. He doesn't understand the national debt. He doesn't understand. Maybe he's an expert in psychology. Maybe he's an expert in debating uh, gay people, right? Maybe he's an expert in going back and forth because there is some things that I agree with Dr. Umar Johnson about. Specifically, one of them is I don't agree with the idea that you should have gender, let your children have surgery to change from a boy to a girl or a girl to a boy. Um, that's silly to me, right? And I think that he brought somebody like Dwayne Wade and Gabriel Union to the front of the congregation to give him 1,000 lashes in order to do so. However, I don't think that he's that well versed on what it takes in order to be successful from a financial perspective. And as a matter of fact, one of the reasons why I know that he is nowhere near where he's supposed to be as far as understanding things from a financial perspective is because when I reached out to him, or my people reached out to him in order to have him come on the platform, I believe that he significantly undervalued what it was that he should be charging to reach out to the platform. So much so that the minute that he said, "Yeah, I'll come onto the platform," I was like, "Okay, cool." It didn't matter what the price was. Like what his price that he named, I was like, "Cool. Wire that over there to him ASAP. Like send him the money ASAP." And I believe that he significantly undervalues where his talent is. I think that he undervalues where he can generate the majority of his income at. And if he understood how money works and where his true talent was, he would lean further into that instead of pandering to a bunch of people in order to hit the cash app, because that's not where the money is. He really needs to align himself with people that understand finances, that understand money, that understand strategy, that allows for him to be able to leverage his celebrity and his ability to be able to pander more effectively to his general audience so he can generate more revenue. The amount that he was about to charge in order for me to get him here was crazy low, in my opinion. But either way,
The majority of whites oppose reparations. The majority of Asians oppose reparations. The majority of Latinos oppose reparations, but you don't have no problem with Ukraine getting billions. You don't have no problem with Israel getting billions. See, what's really going on here is racism. It's not that we don't
I'm going to read Super Chat shortly.
deserve reparations because they give it to everybody else. It's not that we don't deserve reparations. They give it to everybody else. It's not that we don't deserve reparations. They give it to everybody else. The issue is they hate black people. The issue is everybody in America hates black people. The issue is they don't value black life. If I don't value black life, if I hate black people and I don't value black life, if I hate black people and I don't value black life, why would I support reparations? Why would I support?
Now, how did he jump to this conclusion? Because it's the same thing that I just said with Candace Owens. Words mean things. So you can't just automatically label, for example, Steven Crowder as a monster, because that's usually a word that we reserve for the worst of the worst of society. We reserve it for pedophiles, we reserve it for rapists, we reserve it for people that sell drugs and poison into their community in order to enrich themselves. We reserve it for people that are willing to sacrifice other people in order to be able to push forward their agenda and things like that. But you just can't automatically say that somebody hates you because they don't agree with you. Maybe it's other factors. Maybe it's already the debt ceiling. Maybe inflation is already sky high. Maybe they don't really feel as though they disagree with what it is that you feel like reparations is. Maybe they feel like you already have a greater opportunity than 98% of the world, and that you should be appreciative that you even in this country. Who knows, right or wrong, there could be a different reason why somebody agrees or disagrees. So I'm assuming that he automatically puts everybody else into that box that disagree with him, even if you're black. Because me specifically, I don't believe that we should be giving out reparations, especially when we have the debt ceiling and they arguing over the debt ceiling right now. We going through a recession. I don't agree with how much they tax rich people. I don't agree with the tax code, right? I don't agree that we don't have one flat tax. I hate the idea that they have an escalating rate. But even with them having an escalated rate, it doesn't even matter because the middle class is the ones that's going to pay for the majority of what it is that we see happening. I don't like the idea of how the federal government manages the money that we already distribute over into the general public in the first place. I don't like the way that they manage the roads. I don't like how Chicago is not condemning all of the violence that's happening with young people and holding the parents accountable for them tearing up what's going on in downtown Chicago, and then they're gonna be complaining that their city is a food desert over in the ghetto when nobody want to open up a store over there. That doesn't mean that I hate them. It means that I disagree based off of A point, B point, and C point. But you just can't automatically rile up your base by saying that somebody hates you because they don't agree with what it is that you feel like you deserve. That's not hate. That's not hate. Just because I don't agree with you doesn't mean I hate you. That's the same thing that the alphabet community does. They say that if you don't agree with what their stance is on them being able to marry who they want to marry or going to whatever bathroom that they want to go into, then you either hate or you have a homophobia or some crap like that. I'm not afraid of you, and I don't hate you. It's just that I don't agree with what your stance is, but I still respect you as a human being. And as a matter of fact, I'd hire you if you're the best person for the job, because I'm not hiring you based off of your sexual orientation or whether or not you like to kiss girls. I'm hiring you based off of your ability to be able to do this job that I need to be fulfilled. Now, what you decide to do in your own time or where you stand on the spectrum politically, I got friends that's Democrats. I got friends that's Republicans. I got friends that's ultra conservative that identify themselves as Republican that I vehemently disagree with on a lot of the different issues, including climate change. And they be like, well, Anton, you wrong. You don't understand. The climate is always going to be ever change. Cool. We disagree. But that does not mean that I hate you. Hate is a strong word, and we just be throwing these words out there without really understanding the impact of what it is that you're implying on somebody. You can't just automatically throw that on somebody. That's not the move. You cannot say somebody hates you without definitive evidence, because that is the very thing that we ask other people not to do when they stereotype or they put you in a box and they say that all black people is a monolith. You can't do that, bro.
Any kind of help. And you know what makes it so sad? The anti-African Latinos. I'm not talking about my Latino Pan-Africanists. I'm not talking about my Latino Pan-Africanists. I consider them family. I'm not talking about my Latino Pan-Africanists.
You can disagree with me when it comes to what your thoughts on or where you stand on the whole reparations debate. But the one thing that you're not acknowledging is what I'm speaking about. You can't automatically label and say somebody. I hate it when somebody says that somebody is racist. They just automatically label and throw out the word race. Oh, you racist. or they racist, they was racist against me, or they didn't like me, or they kicked me out because I was racist, or they didn't want to serve me. No, maybe it was just that you had a bad attitude. Or maybe it's because all of you brought all of your raggedy friends in and I didn't want to serve you because I didn't agree with the idea of what it was that you was going to represent, and you didn't have proper foot you had sandals on when we require you to not have sandals on and not have open toe shoes. Everything just can't be thrown out with words. Listen, you may disagree with me on what it is that we, reparations or whatever, and I'm gonna drop the link for y'all to be able to cam up and say that. But you can't just throw words at people without the evidence or the proof to substantiate your argument. That's wild to me.
But the anti-African Latinos, you benefit from our struggle. The Asians, you benefit from our struggle. The Arabs, you benefit from our struggle. The East Indians, you benefit. You wouldn't be what you are if you didn't climb on top of our back and benefit from our struggle. So how dare you benefit from our civil rights, benefit from our federal laws, benefit from our struggles, benefit for our...
And who is our? Who the hell is our? What is it that you're doing that was so beneficial that somebody climbed up over your back for? For everybody that was born within the last 50 years, if you were born from 1970 and up, help me to understand what it is that you did that other people are benefiting off of. I'm very curious. I can't wait for some of y'all to cam up and jump up on this panel. I can't wait to drop the link in the chat because we're going to have some very uncomfortable conversations today. Oh, I got time today.
Our liberation struggle, and then after you benefit and rob us of our resources and opportunities. After the Latinos benefited from black people's struggle and robbed us of our resources and opportunities. After the Arabs and Asians benefited from black people's struggle and robbed us of our resources and opportunities. After the Mexicans and European Jews benefited from the black struggle and robbed us of our resources and opportunities, you got the audacity to turn around and say we don't deserve reparations.
Yep, that's what I just said. And guess what? A lot of times it be people and they give their services and I exchange their services for money or whatever. Or somebody comes in and they do something specifically that I like and I'll be like, oh, okay, cool. Right? And it's funny because we can take this all the way down from a business perspective or we can extrapolate it all the way over into the whole race conversation. Some of y'all will sit there and say, well, I benefit from what somebody is driving my food over, or they gave me good service, but I don't feel like I owe you a tip because that's not my cultural norm. That's not what I expect. The business should have paid you more money, right? How can we not use that same argument and said, hey, listen, you should have never sold your people over into slavery in the first place, or you shouldn't have been conquered. It's a lot of different ways in which we can mine out this conversation, but just because you feel a certain type of way don't mean you're right. A lot of black people, what I've noticed, is they think that just because they feel it, that it means something to everybody else, that somebody else is supposed to support your narrative just because you feel a certain type of way. We don't care. Nobody cares about what you feel. The only thing that matters is what it is that you've actually been able to accomplish and achieve. Nobody cares. Thank you for the super chat. I'm going to be reading them shortly. Nobody cares about what you feel. Some of y'all feel like you a girl and you really a boy. That don't mean nothing to me. Biologically, to me, you still a boy. You feel like a girl. That don't mean I got to acknowledge how you feel. I don't have to acknowledge the fact that you feel like you're owed reparations. I don't have to acknowledge anything. The only thing I got to do is do exactly what it is that I do and continue to win. I don't believe in running in the victim Olympics. I don't believe in running in the oppression Olympics. Now, I could be open to the possibility that I'm wrong, and I reserve the right to change my mind. But as of right now, just because you feel it doesn't mean anything to me.
You got the audacity to turn around and say we don't deserve reparations. You got the audacity to turn around and say we don't deserve reparations. I keep telling y'all, y'all better stop with this people of color bullshit. Y'all better stop with this people of color bullshit. You have nothing in common with these people. Nobody cares about you. Nobody likes you. Stop with the people of color shit. Stop with the people of color. Stop with the multicultural. Stop, stop, stop. None of them want you to get reparations, even though all of them benefited from your struggles.
You know what? I'm going to skip the last thing that I wanted to talk about because y'all feeling some type of way inside of the chat. So I'm going to drop the link inside of the chat for y'all to cam up and say exactly what you think. Give me a second. Only if you disagree with me, though. It could be about anything. It could be about reparations. It could be about Steven Crowder. It could be about Candace Owens. It could be about whatever it is that you want. Tell me why you disagree with me. I just dropped the link in the chat. Make sure you tap in to the Patreon. Link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. I don't listen, and that's okay. We can have a civil discussion. I don't agree with everything that my mother says. Let me read some of these super chats. Umar gives us off the Southern Baptist preacher vibe. Agreed. I agree. Ash says, 80, I'm confused. Who's the enemy? Can you please remind us, C students, who the enemy is? I forgot. Apparently, everybody that don't agree with the fact that black people get reparations. That's who the enemy is, according to a lot of these people. Centennial G is in the building, says, AD, what you missed yesterday with the NFL draft was all my brothers of the white women delegation on their side. Donkey Kong Consciousness was asking for Susan and Katie in the background. Yo, I'm going to go through that. I got to see it. I need somebody to put together a compilation video of all of the people that got drafted and who they had on their side as a result of it. I never thought about that. That is a phenomenal idea. Conundrum 93 says, or Qnundrum 93 says, Umar has said so many times before that we are not ready for financial reparations and at least a dozen videos. Interesting. Jean Wick says reparations is a logistical impossibility. Impossible to be fair if it were to happen. Not all so-called blacks are descendants of slaves. Do rich blacks get paid? How about mixed people? Obama? Interesting conversation. Aaron says if the country already gives reparations to other groups, then they should give it to black people, not necessarily for slavery, but for unconstitutional government acts after slavery. Cliff Williams says, F your feelings. Agreed, Cliff. All right, so got the super chats out of the way. I see a lot of people talking crazy and they got a completely different perspective in the chat. I dropped the link. I'm trying to understand when y'all gonna come up and helping me to understand it. I dropped the link in the chat at the very beginning of this show. I told you. I said, listen, I am going to drop the link for y'all to be able to cam up because you know what we do on Fridays and you're more than welcome to help me to understand where I'm wrong. Make sure you got your camera on, make sure you got good lighting, and then tell me to my face exactly what it is that I'm doing that is so off, or change my mind, or help me to understand, or help the audience to understand, because there's over 1,000 people in here. Help the audience understand exactly where it is that Anton is off on this conversation. I don't see anybody in the background. I'll be waiting for you guys. I'll be waiting for you guys. Shout out to Lawrence Warren says, go ahead and just say what you want to say about those feelings. Fuck your feelings. Fuck your feelings, boys. All right, let me drop the link. Some of y'all might have missed the link that I dropped inside of the chat. There you go. We'll hear a little bit more of what Umar Johnson got to say until then.
None of them want you to get reparations, but all of them benefited from your struggle. None of these people of color you love to shout out, you love to claim, you love to speak for. 2/3 of all Latinos don't want you to get reparations. 2/3 of all white people don't want you to get reparations. 2/3 of all Asians don't want you to get reparations. And I can guarantee you 2/3 of East Indians, 2/3 of Native Americans, 2/3 of everybody else don't want you to get no reparations either.
And half of the country is going to disagree with whoever it is that's voted for president. Now what? The overwhelming majority of the internet disagree with my take on that. The fact that I think that black culture is trash, the thing that we celebrate the most of it. And that don't mean nothing to me. I said what I said, and I meant what I said when I said it. Now we can find some common ground on another subject in which you agree with me. But in a general sense, it doesn't matter to me about what everybody else thinks. The only thing that matters is the results. And I don't see one person. I see y'all getting student loan forgiveness, not on a mass scale, but on an individual level based off of some of the schools that y'all went to. I see some of y'all still voting for Biden. I see a lot of people acting like they didn't vote for Biden. Listen, the only thing that matters is the results. And until you get the results, all you're doing is crying and whining and complaining. The only thing that matters is the results.